Thank you for joining me. My name is Maurice Ekong. I have made the point in my last video that the appropriate policy response to the existential threats of widespread poverty, hunger, and insecurity facing Nigeria is the systematic exploitation of the opportunities in the agriculture value chain. Why is that important? It's no longer news that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world, and according to the Global Hunger Index for 2019, Nigeria was 93 out of 117 countries with a score of 27.9, leaving the hunger level in the country as serious. So now 200 million people projected into 2050, which is 30 years from now, Nigeria's population would be about 392 or 400 million people, surpassing America, the US, to become the third most populous country on the earth after India and China. So in the last video, I spoke about the low-hanging fruit of livestock development, exploiting the opportunities in the livestock value chain, particularly focusing on cattle, which the North has comparative advantage for, and suitable climatic conditions to sustain commercial scale production of cattle. Now, in response to some of our viewers, I'll be touching on some vital elements, some dynamics for making this work. Because Nigeria, according to the Institute of Animal Science in the country, currently has about 22 million cattle, which is per capita of 0.11 per population. We spoke about Uruguay being the country with the highest number of cattle per capita, standing at 3.44. So if you look at that, Nigeria still has ways to go to catch up. So I propose that Nigeria can raise the number of cattle in the country from its current level of 22 million to at least 200 million to have one cattle per capita, which is 29% of what Uruguay is currently doing from a per capita basis. So the concern is, how do you dimension that? How do you systematically develop that? How do you guarantee feed for 200 million cattle? You know, what are the requirements to make that work, to engineer that kind of investment? So very quickly, I'll be looking at it in this video. You have input, you have production, and then you have processing. So some of the things we need to take care of to ensure that kind of expansion is feed, particularly important, veterinary services, important. You need to take care of the genetics. In production, we'll look at, stockers, we'll look at the need for feedlots. We'll look at the, dairy or beef production in itself. And then in processing, we'll look, would need packaging, would need processing, and then further processing. So very quickly, because of the social impact of this kind of expansion from 22 million to 200 million cattle, and the potential challenges, particularly when it comes to sourcing feed and another byproduct of the entire value chain, which is the production of organic fertilizer. with the potential to address the contention between farmers and herders when there's a symbiotic relationship between the two that is clearly seen and understood: organic fertilizers. So in this video, I'll speak mostly to feed and to the opportunities in stimulating the production of organic fertilizer in commercial quantities. So first of all, the feed mill sector in Nigeria is currently valued by some estimates at about $12.5 billion. Now, of that, only about 1.8% of all that is produced, all the animal feed that is produced, I'm talking about animal feed production, only about 1.8% goes to the production of 94,250 metric tons of feed for confined cattle in confinement. So most of the other feed that is produced, which is about 5.3 million metric tons, goes to poultry, aquaculture, and piggery. Only a small portion of that entire market, focuses on cattle. So if you suddenly have 200 million cattle over the next 10 years, would need to significantly increase the number, the volume of feed produced for that sector. So that will attract investments of about $19 billion just to cater to 200 million cattle alone, because we're looking at confinement, at a system where the cattle are confined and not constantly moving, because constantly moving is not sustainable and engenders conflict, like we have seen over the years, right? So in terms of the kind of investment for processing, for production and processing, apart from feed, I'll just speak to feed and then I'll touch a little bit about the kind of investment, particularly for beef. At a high level, we'll be looking at an investment of about $3,000 per beef cattle for both production and processing. So if we have an additional expansion of 178 million cows over the next 10 years, cattle heads would be looking at an investment of well over $534 billion attracted into that sector. Of course, you see that will have a huge socio-economic impact on the livelihoods of the millions of people that are in the north and across the country, right? So very quickly going to one of the byproducts that can be stimulated from this investment in the cattle value chain: organic fertilizers. As of 2016, Nigeria imported about 593,000 metric tons of fertilizer, according to the USAID, valued at about $231 million. Right? Each cow produces approximately 29.5 kilograms of dung per day, translating to 908 kilograms of dung per year per cow. Now, if we have 200 million cattle in Nigeria over the next 10 years, each year we will be producing 5.9 million metric tons of manure that can be composted. So that would easily take care of all the fertilizer requirements in the country, with a market value of $2.3 billion or thereabouts. So all of a sudden, there will be a need, would realize the opportunities in producing organic fertilizer from dung. Nigeria's total fertilizer consumption as at 2017 was 1.5 million metric tons. So if we can get cattle to produce 5.9 million metric tons, would eliminate the need for importation of fertilizer and be a net exporter of the product. So all of a sudden, farmers and herders will see the benefits of having a symbiotic relationship, and millions of people would be employed and lifted out of poverty just by focusing systematically on the opportunities in the cattle sector alone. I believe Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria, can do this. In the days ahead, I'll be presenting a position paper with details on how I believe this can be implemented. In the next videos, I'll be speaking to other regions and take one low-hanging fruit that each region can leverage in the agricultural value chain to make a difference and put Nigeria in the appropriate place that it belongs in the Committee of Nations. Thank you, and I expect your feedback.